back to the Intangible podcast. I'm excited to sit here and have a conversation with my guy, Jake. This is not going to be a podcast about stats, but it's going to be a podcast about transformation, identity, and leadership. And so I'm really excited to dive into your story, your upbringing, things that have made you who you are, but also the work that you're doing now that's so meaningful. It means so much to me and so many other guys that you come in contact with. And so, Jake, welcome to the Intangible podcast. Excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm pumped to be here, man. I appreciate that introduction, and it's good to see you again.
Well, more the intro here. You're a PAX member, leader. You're help cultivating new locker room, as so to speak.
Yeah.
We come out of a multitude of locker rooms, and now you're part of a locker room that is helping athletes succeed in life. Life outside of sports. So excited to dive into all of that. But before we get there,
yeah.
I want to go back to your upbringing, the things that has shaped you, who you are, and how you see leadership and connections through your upbringing.
I always share this with people because I think it helps people understand a lot of what you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Why I do what I do, what's important to me, and the pursuit I'm on in life.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in what would be non-traditional American standards, if you will, right? So, born to an absent father. My mother was young and battled addiction, drug addiction at a young age. So when I was born, I actually didn't spend much time with my biological parents. I spent some time in the foster care system. And then I was also eventually adopted by my grandmother, my mom's mom,
right,
who I would really say she is the one who stepped in and helped provide me some stability.
Yeah.
We lived a really a really humble life, but she provided love, a place to be, consistency, family. And those things gave me a foundation to start learning about who I was, not feeling like, I was in unstable situations or that the world was coming for me, which sometimes it did feel that way.
Right.
So yeah, a little bit of unique upbringing in that way. And I come from a huge family, man. I actually am like one of 7.
Are you serious?
One of 7, but I'm the only full-blooded version of me, meaning my mom and my dad.
Right.
Every other brother and sister I have is a half brother or sister. And we've actually connected at different times in my life.
Yeah.
There was a while there where I wasn't even aware of some of my brothers and sisters. So
Wow.
when I say non-traditional, when we think that potential white picket fence story, it wasn't like that. It was very different.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I think I just said this not too long ago on a podcast where we was talking about the same thing, non-traditional, I'm one of 5 and
big family,
big family.
Yeah.
But in the South, we don't say half brothers and sisters. We just say, hey, this is my brother.
This is my family.
Yeah, this is family,
yeah. I don't say that if this is my half brother or sister, I don't introduce them that way. They'd probably be my no brother or sister if I kept doing that. But when I'm telling that story, I think identify that so people know like it's messy.
Yeah.
Just to call it what it is, right? Yeah, it's a little messy, but I love them obviously with all my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. When you talk about that white picket fence and you talk about your upbringing, how you grew up and being in the foster care, take me through a little bit of that journey and how that started to really shape your identity and who you were and what you wanted to be. Going through that process, how did that not harden you, I guess I would say?
Yeah.
But bring out this other side of you, of this love and this compassion and empathy that we see here today.
Man, it's a good question. And you said something at the end that it's probably the starting point, which is it did harden me. Right. So like, as a young boy, you're not sure what that means. And as you're growing older, you learn things like anger or like you feel shut down. So like, I definitely did experience that growing up, but I also got glimpses of so many other things. And I think some of that was because of the absence, right? Like I knew I'm living with my grandmother or I'm in this foster care scenario. Like I knew that wasn't quote unquote normal. Which led me to ask a lot of questions, even at a young age. Well, why? What is this? Who am I? Like, how am I valuable or useful, right? And so what was a blessing was when I was adopted by my grandmother. And like I said, it provided the fundamental things I needed: love, care, consistency. It gave me some room to start going, now what? Right. And even as a young kid, I found myself staying busy all day. And because I'm growing with my grandmother, it's old school rules, right? Like be home when the street lights turn on. So between I'm out of school, or if it's the summer, when I wake up, I'm outside, I'm running around with my friends and even hustling a little bit. I had a paper route when I was like 9 years old, man.
My wife had a paper route and I know her story about her paper route. Did your papers actually show up on the doorstep?
Wait, when you say show up on the doorstep, me delivering them?
Yeah.
Did I deliver them? Okay. So this is funny that you said that because I got in over my head, basically. I think I was delivering like 5,000 papers, something like that. And I was like, again, like 9 or something. That's a big operation for a 9-year-old. So in the beginning, I'll be honest in saying some of the papers didn't make it to where they needed to go. And this is where I started to catch my footing. I realized, man, I got all these friends running around. Like, why don't I get them to help me? And I started like, at the end of it, we go to the store on the corner that my grandmother worked at. And, you get like a 50-cent bag of chips, like 25-cent pack of Wrigley gum, and then like whatever red drink was in their fridge, right? And like that would cost me like $2. And I'd do that for like 3 or 4 of my friends, and they'd help me deliver all the papers. And so they did end up getting delivered, but I just realized I wasn't going to be able to do it alone. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's better than my wife's stories. Her papers ended up in the creek.
Like she threw them in there?
She threw them in the creek because she was just like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So.
I think some of mine might have ended up in a dumpster. Yeah.
She got caught because it bogged up the creek. So they had to go in and clean out the creek.
Yeah. So I don't think that was the best place to discard the papers. No. Yeah.
So anyway, back to.
That's funny. No, it's good. It's good. It's funny. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that, it gave me room for things like that. So I mean, I was working with my friends to deliver newspapers. I even started helping with some vacuum sales at a Kirby vacuum distributor that was down the block from where we lived. And at that time, we grew up in Aliquippa, which is outside of Pittsburgh. Not a really well-known place, but it was a booming community when the steel mills were operating in Pittsburgh. Shut down the steel mills, and that community has since started to deteriorate pretty aggressively. But home to some giants in the space of pro athletes. So Mike Ditka, Darrell Revis, Ty Law, some like Hall of Famers.
Wow.
So their origins are Aliquippa, PA. So when I was growing up, football was big. It was what the city lived for. Yeah. So I got to experience all of that with my grandmother at a young age. And I think Aliquippa, along some of those ventures that I talked about, helped me realize like, no matter what I'm doing, I want to be doing it with other people. And I want to be doing something meaningful, and I'm going to try to make some money along the way because,
absolutely,
this is the world. Yeah. Even at a young age. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Growing up, the way that you grew up, how did that start to shape, your, as a father, as a husband, how did that start to shape your why?
Like I mentioned, growing up, I could feel something was off a little bit, right? There's something there that for me, I think it showed up as shame as I got older, right? So eventually I do move back in with my mother and reunite with some of my brothers and sisters. I moved to Florida. I fall in love with sports. Florida's a perfect place to fall in love with sports, specifically football. But that's where I would say like the hardening, the anger, the shame, I started to realize what those feelings were, right? I wanted to hide some of who I was or where I came from. Specifically when you move from a place like Aliquippa, Pennsylvania to a place like Naples, Florida, which if you know either of those, it's night and day.
Right.
You go from like I said, a city of struggle to a city of beauty and wealth. And so I had to reconcile a lot of that. And as I started to reconcile that, I realized in my future roles, like I had a choice in who I was going to be, right? Where I come from is not dictating where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so when I realized, I'm going to start working on this family thing, I want to become a father, and I'm taking on these other roles as a leader in the world. I had an opportunity to create this future, not let it happen to me. And so I always say my why is that I'm changing the trajectory of my family for generations to come. When I talk about my sons, my 3-year-old and my 8-week-old, my ceiling is their floor.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. Right. So
I like that.
My goal is, man, how far can I push this ceiling and then create that springboard for them?
Yeah.
I want them to work for it, but I want them to also feel supported and have great opportunity. And I want them to be a continuation of what I start in their own way.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's so powerful. I similar, growing up different, a little different, but the same thing for my kids is, where I started, I don't want that for my kids. I want them to be way better than who I am, what I was, and so, and it's ironic that no matter where you come from, we still have these shared experiences, and I'm sure that your shared experiences lean into the locker room that you're in now makes it easier for guys to really open up and have those type of conversations with you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you nailed it. The shared experience. What I've learned is like the shame and all of that. I wouldn't share my story. I realized, man, I have power over this. I get to tell this story, right? Not hide from it. And when I tell the story, I realize that other people, right, are willing to start to tell theirs.
Right.
There's a relatability. Right. There's an access point, and I've realized that vulnerability is an act of courage, really. When you put yourself out there, you're inviting other people to do the same thing. that's where healing happens, right?
Right.
And that's where we see broken men and women start to become complete and whole again,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that in the locker room for me, what I've learned working with professional athletes, and even me, someone who was in a locker room, not a professional way, that the locker room is healing for people who know it. It's a
Yeah.
safe place, right?
Yeah.
It's a place where you got to have fun, you got to challenge people, you got to tell the truth, you got to be, someone that was probably greater than you could have imagined. And then when that's gone, you're searching,
Ah,
right? Now what? Who am I? I
yeah.
experienced that same feeling. And so we're creating this new locker room and at Pro Athlete Community, right?
Yeah.
And being a part of it for me is healing. And I see that working for other people too, which is
Yeah.
rewarding.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
dive into that, but when I think about, again, your journey right now, and well, your early on childhood journey, at what point in that journey did you start to question your faith and who you were, and question your identity? Because I feel like there has to be a dying of that to resurge into where you are now. And so at what point in your life did that really hit home? Again, you're a young kid, you're going through all these different challenges, but you still, that prefrontal cortex is still developing, so you're
Mm-hmm.
still not super aware. They're starting to come along, and so at what point in your at that stage for you that was like very prominent of identity?
Yes.
Who am I? My faith. What does
Right.
that look like? So
Yeah. So I think the seed for that was planted when I started playing organized football.
mm,
Um, it was having the right coaches and mentors around me, teammates. I started to learn like if I did specific things, I would have specific outcomes. If I
reward
trained
system.
hard, right,
Yeah.
then I would get stronger
Mm,
faster. If I practiced like every play was the most important play, I would be better at the end of the week.
yeah.
I fell in love with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think when I left athletics, because I played college football for 1 year, I ended up hanging it up due to injury. There was no chance of me becoming a pro athlete. I knew it then. I know it now. So I ended up hanging up. And that was, though, where I would say that all exploded. Right.
Yeah.
That safety net was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like that arena that I played in, how binary it was 1 + 1 = 2. I knew it day in and day out. When that disappeared, I really started to question, who am I now? How do I get to continue to make meaningful progress forward in my life, knowing that I'm not a football player right now, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm not an athlete right now. So I started to dive into self work, right? I started reading books. I started to fall in love with this idea of education, which for a long time I was like,
"Get
I went
that
to
away
school because
from
I
me."
had to go to school.
Yeah.
Now I'm
They're
going to
making
school
me.
because I choose to. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm
It's
learning. And so,
different.
yeah. So I became curious about myself, about the world around me. And I realized again, like same way, when I was young and I started my paper route, or when I started playing organized sports for the first time, I now have another opportunity right in front of me to figure out what's next and to choose my future, not let it happen to me.
Right.
That was a bumpy road though, right? That wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, I've arrived,
Right.
and still haven't, right? Because it's a
Right.
journey. But I would say over the course of the last 12 years, man, I've been on that constant evolution. And I think by trying a lot of things that I didn't like, I learned a lot about what I do.
Mhm.
And I've landed somewhere close to what really matters to me.
Yeah.
But I wake up every day and I still question, who am I and what am I doing? And is this all worth it? And am I on the right path?
Yeah, I don't know if that ever goes away, but you have a foundation to always get back to your center,
Yep.
and I think that's what, the things that takes us off track, and being able to learn more about yourself is pushing you and forcing you to grow. And then you kind of find that way back to the center because you've learned something. And then there's something else, another challenge that comes along, like having kids that pushes you off, that you have to like figure out
Yes.
how do I continue, how do I get more patience? And so there's always areas in life that continues to push you off track so you can learn and bring you back on track. And so sounds like that's the track that you've been on.
Oh, yeah.
And we're still
Yeah.
on. We're still trying to figure out how do we
I
continue to
mean,
grow.
the way you said, the way I like to explain it, it's just a different version of what you're really saying is it's this idea that, we're a ship at the sea and we're anchored, right? But
Mhm.
there's some slack on that chain. So,
Yeah.
we'll sway back and forth a little bit. Maybe the seas get a little choppy. There's a storm, whatever it looks like. So it will maybe move us a little further from that anchor. But
Yeah.
as long as we stay attached, we can find our way back.
Right.
And life requires you to sweat. Like you said, becoming a parent, like, I'm 8 weeks in with my second little boy, and talk about swaying. You've got to reprioritize and reshuffle your life.
Yeah.
Continue to show up for you and everyone around you. that requires something different from you
Yeah.
in this season. So,
Yeah.
so I'm working on that again right now. And
Yeah.
like you said, it's a journey, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would assume, being that the journey that you've been on and in the role that you're in right now and in the leadership aspect of things and cultivating these relationships, I'm assuming that you can sit across from a guy and truly lean in and notice what they're not willing to share to get them to open up to share what's really going on in their lives. I'm
Mm.
I'm I'm I'm, I'm assuming that you're really skillful at that because of what you've had to experience throughout your life.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you said that really well. I didn't even realize that for a long time, but yeah, where I come from, the life experiences I've had, I do believe I have actually like a little bit of an intuition, right? That is a muscle I've probably learned over time. And practicing vulnerability, I'm less afraid to use
Mm,
it.
mm,
And some of the training I've been through as a leadership coach, you learn how to ask questions that give the person you're asking the chance to lean in,
yeah.
right? And even sometimes they don't. What I've learned about athletes is sometimes you got to push them in a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's it's definitely a pushing because and I can contest to that because being a former athlete, even just even started my own company, having my COO telling me, "Hey, we're going to start a podcast," and I'm like, "No, I'm not going to start a podcast." And here I am
here we
doing a
are podcasting.
podcast,
Yeah.
and there's been several things that I've had to be pushed on in my life, because of, again, not being willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
One of the things I've shared, quite often on this podcast is, having dyslexia, and I never wanted to lean into that. And so, but I've now realized the vulnerability of leaning into it has opened up so much more of my own world, not just, the bonuses is helping others, but and making others feel comfortable that there's nothing wrong with you,
Mhm.
but it also opened up so much more for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting here feeling that as you're talking, that as a guy who grown up in Mississippi the way I grew up, that hey, you'd be an easy guy to sit across and have a dialect with, and that could truly like let you in. We get this idea that we got to have these walls because so many people tell you you're great, you're
Right.
so many people wanting, and so you build these walls, and so you don't let people in. And so until you find somebody that you feel like you can trust and lean into that. And so you being in that locker room and helping cultivating that locker room, I'm sure that guys are like, hey, I want to talk to Jake.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. I like to think that that's true, and I think it would be selfish for me to not say though that it's often like I'm in this leadership coaching role, and then there's someone and I'm working with them, and that feels like this one-sided street almost, where maybe I'm the one delivering value
Yeah.
or like helping and creating progress or getting closer to what matters to you. But man, it's a two-way street,
Yeah.
right? Some of the times I'm sitting across, I'm talking to someone like yourself, and I'm tapping into like what I believe is a gift of mine and training that I've completed. And I realize, oh man, I'm actually kind of talking to me a little bit. Like I'm gaining some of my own wisdom here. It's always harder to take your own advice. It's easier to listen to you give it to someone else, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, it is something where I take a lot of pride in the fact that people will trust me. People will trust the organization that I work with at Pro Athlete Community for that kind of conversation and seeking that kind of meaning in their life. It's special, specifically when you've been an athlete your whole life. Everyone's told you you're great, you're the best, and everybody probably wanted a piece of who you were.
Yep.
I'm not asking for anything but what you want to offer and to help you get better and closer to what matters to you.
In this role, how do you lean in and create a safe space for an athlete who is you can already tell that is reluctant to be a part of the program for whatever issues they may have going on within their head? How do you create that safe space where people can really feel comfortable with leaning in to start to grow outside of that, the football identity or basketball or baseball, whatever male female sport that's been played? How do you how do you set the space up for people to feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So individually, I've worked with I think a little north of 50 pro athletes on a coaching capacity. Then I've worked with a ton of athletes in small groups and then large scale, events as well. And all of that matters. All of those touch points matter. But the reality is like you've got to figure out where that person is and can you meet them there.
Mhm.
For some people, that's starting a conversation about how their day went.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, tell me how your day went. What was that like? And then you'll notice through what they share with you, there's probably a place that you could say, well, you said this. Tell me a little bit more about that. What did you mean by that?
Yeah.
And over the course of time, you get them talking, you start to develop mutual trust, right? And people will start to reveal things, tell you things, really start to pull the walls down, right? And trust the conversation that's occurring. And then you gain the benefit of that. Like, I got to connect with someone in a meaningful way. I got to talk about the things that I thought were just living in my head, right? And exercise them a little bit and work through them and hopefully find more clarity, or walk away with a prompt or a thought or a seed that you can work with that may change your perspective. May change the way you're looking at the thing that's happening to you, right? Maybe it's not happening to you. Maybe it's happening for you. So you got to meet people where they're at, right? You got to trust that process too. Sometimes, and you know this, like as an athlete, you focus on the result, right? Even as a coach, sometimes you can find yourself there. Oh, I want Chris to have a transformational experience. That's not the result. The result is, where's Chris at? How do we help him move forward a little bit? Right. And trust that process over time. So meet people where they're at, build trust slowly, and really listen to what they're saying and ask them open-ended questions. When you ask people open-ended questions, you learn a lot. And I know those sound simple, but that's really like the basis and the fundamental recipe for starting a meaningful conversation with somebody.
I'm a big fan of open-ended questions, because we live in a world where there's, a lot of measuring sticks. And when you ask these true or false type questions, then you don't really get the full story. So the open-ended question means a lot to me. I mean, we use a lot of that in my company as open-ended questions to do the analytics on people's language, to figure out how to help them and who they are. And so very, very big into that. But as I think about, these safe spaces and the conversation around, letting people open it up, what are the things that you're looking for to help guys redefine, their identity?
Yeah. So there's a few things, but there are definitely some foundational things that I'm a believer in. And I think that I've seen progress in with a lot of people that I've worked with. One is really getting them rooted in what matters from a value perspective. So you'll hear different coaches talk about this, different leaders talk about this. It shows up in team sports, shows up in companies, probably like your own. But what are the guiding values that matter to you, right? And I think by establishing those, people start to learn where they want to invest their time. Right? Like, if your family matters to you, tell me what you're doing with your family. If being an entrepreneur matters to you, tell me how you're investing time, energy, and effort into being an entrepreneur. And it also, like I said, back when we were talking about some of my stories, when you try on things you don't like, you learn that really quickly. And that can also help you then discover what you do. So there's been times where I thought something was a value of mine, right? And you establish that, or an athlete thought that they had a value and you establish that, and they start living into it and they go, I'm just kidding. This isn't what I thought it was, or it wasn't actually for me. I may have been doing this for somebody or something else, right? So starting with your values is always step one, in my opinion. Right.
And I don't think that's talked about enough, especially for younger people. You figure these things out later in life. You figure it out when you're in the big transition to life, which I think it needs to be, things that at least the foundation, the conversation needs to start happening earlier, because once you understand that is your North Star, and that always kind of like your analogy about that ship, that, it always gets you back to your North Star when you understand that. And it took me a long time to figure that out myself.
Yeah. I mean, this the whole ship analogy. And so the way I also look at a value is and I share this sometimes, you're sitting you're sitting on a beach, right? You're looking out at a vast ocean. You see this island out in the middle of the water, right? That island, let's say figuratively, that's the vision you have for your life. It's where you're attempting to go. Now, if I just say to you, like, hey, jump in the water and go, it's probably going to be a tough process for you to figure out. Like, one, like, if you even know the island's there, right? So, like, you got to have that vision. But if I just say, go for it, like, that, I don't know how that's going to end. You don't know how that's going to end. So we start asking the right questions, right? Like,
question.
Can you swim?
Where's the boat?
Yeah, right. Where's the
Where's
boat?
my life jacket?
Can you swim? Yeah, where's the? So these things for me start to be your tools, your resources, your values, right? And the values for me are almost like these beacons of light in the water, where it's like, okay, I know if I swim over here, I'm gonna be good for a minute. I can head over here, I'll be good for a minute. But they're the things we can draw back to, whether we're stretching ourselves into something big, right? We're going after a big goal, or reforming a part of who we are, or we're going through a really challenging time. Maybe we've been defeated. We've come across something that has put us on our heels. Either way, the value should be the thing that keeps you moving in the right direction, or generally in the right direction.
Right. Man, it's so powerful. So powerful. We're going to jump into a quick two minute It's
it's a 2-minute drill?
It's a 2-minute drill.
Okay,
It's going to be some rapid fire questions.
Let's roll.
But
like
it's a 2-minute going into halftime. So it's not too stressful
Cool,
yet.
cool, okay.
So, all right, let me get to the 2-minute now.
Let's do it.
2-minute drill, man. You ready for this? Here we go. Best leadership advice that you've ever received?
My high school football coach, who I would consider to be one of had one of the largest influences on me in a time where I really needed it. He's now coaching at the University of Louisville, but he said to me, whatever you do, you got to love it. And there's things you'll do that you don't love because you love it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I was like 17. I was like, I think I'm tracking with you. Yeah. But that really has guided so many of my decisions. It's been more around the feeling, the energy. Like, is it something I'm passionate about? And it's led to an unorthodox approach sometimes in my career, in my life, but I think it's working out. So you got to love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, next one. One word that describes the pack culture.
Elite.
Elite.
Yeah, it's in the DNA.
I love it.
It's in the DNA.
All right, what's your go-to song when you need to refocus?
I would say The Man by Aloe Black.
I like that one.
Yeah. I like that one as a reset, like a good energy vibe, like reminding me, I'm like, I got this, I can do this.
Yeah. I like that. Favorite book or quote that changed your mindset?
Okay, so I love the book Ishmael by Daniel Quinn.
I haven't read that one.
I was gonna say it's not popular. Most of the time I bring it up and people are like, I've never heard of that before. And I say, I'm not surprised by that. But it is a book that taught me the power of perspective and how sometimes circumstances won't even change, but your perspective on something can. And that's really all that's needed. So the power of perspective through that book really came up for me. I read it like at least once every 2 years for like the last 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm getting it on my list. All right. Most fulfilling part of your job?
Most fulfilling part of my job is the meaningful conversations that I have with our members and our athletes.
Yeah.
We do a lot of cool stuff at PAC, like events and different things that I think everyone sees and think it's exciting. And I agree, but nothing energizes me more than just getting to sit down with a member, have a good conversation with them, hear about their life, what they're working towards. That for me fills my cup.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. What's hard, being a leader or being a listener?
I mean, for me, being a listener is harder. I mean, I think that's probably true for most people, but listening, man, is it's an active process and it happens in different levels, right? Like there's actually a concept called the levels of listening. And that really breaks down and creates some complexity. So I think listening is harder and I think it's of higher value. Yeah. I think listening opens the space for leading.
Right. Yeah. All right. Last one.
Okay, bring it on.
If you could sit down with anyone to have coffee, who would it be?
I can only choose one.
No, this is your 2 minutes.
Cool. I just, I'm a rule follower, so I just wanted to check in. Well, one would be my grandfather, Mike McKenzie. He passed away roughly 10 years ago, but he is someone that when I think about his legacy and how I view him, that I aspire to be like in a lot of ways. He was a trailblazer, fearless. He was a jockey and a boxer back in the day. So he's a little scrappy guy. Yeah. And then went on to be a really successful businessman in his next chapter, right? He managed to navigate that. And so he's someone I always aspire to. And as I've gotten older, I've learned he was far from perfect. I've learned about some of the dusty corners that existed. And I think actually it's made me respect him more because I know we all have those. Yeah. So one would be my grandfather, no questions asked. And then if I could choose an athlete, I would choose to sit down with Troy Polamalu.
Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, former safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, so I lived outside of Pittsburgh.
Quiet, man.
Yeah, that's why.
Quiet.
So I have a lot of respect for someone who shows up on the football field like an absolute lion.
Yeah.
And then everywhere else is this calm, quiet, thoughtful human being. There's something in that duality to me that's really sticky and I admire. Yeah. And I'd love to know more about him as a person, actually. Yeah. And I grew up watching the Steelers during the Polamalu era. So watching him play, jumping over piles, his hair flying around. I mean, he's a madman.
Yeah. I respect that. Troy, come on. We got to get you on the Intangible podcast. We got to tell your story.
Out. Yeah.
I respect that.
But it's the peaceful warrior.
He's just like, you can, yes, that's perfect.
It's a peaceful warrior.
It's peaceful. You can see it.
That's a dangerous man. I want my kids to be dangerous like that. Like, oh, so kind. And then can turn it on.
Yes.
whenever you need to.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that. Awesome, man. That was great. That was a great 2 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. We didn't have to use very many timeouts in there. So
Yeah,
we're good to go.
I forgot I had them.
All right. We're going to jump back in. You're working in one of the most impactful locker rooms now. What does that mean for you? But also, what does that locker room look like?
Yeah.
When we talk about, when most people now that's listening to this podcast, they think about locker rooms, they're thinking about, whatever sport that they're into and what guys are doing in the locker room, telling the funny stories, but being in this locker room of life, and with impacts, what does that locker room look like?
Yeah. It's a great question. The way that I love to describe what PAC is it is a powerful ecosystem for current and former pros. So I like the word ecosystem because everything's working together in an ecosystem, right? We know there's a balance and we know there's a variety. So when you think about PAC is a place where you can come to find general community and connection with like-minded individuals. It's a place where you can find a space to learn and grow through leadership development, industry education, whether that be real estate to sales to tech. I mean, you name it, like all of it, as well as really sticky inhuman experiences that get people excited about their life and make them want to continue to move forward and grow and remind them of who they were all along, right? Someone who had a goal that so few ever achieved to become a professional in their sport. They climb that mountain, right? They learn the skills, they bring forward the character traits, and they ultimately end up being triumphant, right? They become a pro.
Right.
And then they need to do that again, but it's a new mountain.
Right.
And that can be really uncomfortable. So PAC is the place where you can come and we will remind you of that, surround you with the right people, give you the resources and the tools and the community to help you grow and continue to move forward and be a lead at what's next and what's now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When I think about PACs, I think about the 3 pillars that you guys really stand for.
Yeah.
How did you guys get to those pillars?
Yeah. So it's a good question. So I think to do that justice, I got to share a little of the origin story of PAC. So Caleb Thornhill, former director of player engagement for the Miami Dolphins for over a decade. He's working with athletes every day and he sees this need for support during transition, right? Like I was a professional athlete and now I'm going to do something else.
Right.
And I think Caleb observed firsthand how often people are challenged by that transition. Yeah. And he said he was going to do something about it. So he started to build transition programs for the Dolphins.
Investing into his players.
Yes. Yeah. You got it. So this will come in, right? Invest, cultivate, elevate. Yeah. So Caleb did that. And I would like to think that was the testing ground for like a decade. Like, how do we solve the need? Who needs it? How does it work? And through that process, Caleb was connected to another great leader through one of the players, Jermon Bushrod, connected Caleb with Chip Halsek. And so Chip is, a serial entrepreneur, a very successful ed tech leader, and built one of the largest online education platforms in the world.
Cultivating the right relationships.
There you go. Cultivate. This is good. Yeah. They put their heads together, right? And said, I think we can do this together, and decided to take this program and build it as Pro Athlete Community Next Chapter U. And September 2022, I was there, our very first Next Chapter U program. I think we had 20 guys in the room, people from Avery Moss to Olivia Vernon to Cam Wake to Steven Jackson. I mean, a wide range of careers in the NFL, right? And built what PAC is today, and it's continued to evolve and grow. But that last part was Chip and Caleb putting themselves together to elevate what Caleb was creating, right? So we've got invest, cultivate, and elevate. Invest in yourself, right? Cultivate meaningful relationships and elevate yourself in the world around you, right? And that was built through that origin story of Chip and Caleb and one conversation connecting them, and that now, in my opinion, leading to what will change the lives of thousands of people.
Yeah,
man.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. When I think about the cultivate portion of that, that's what I get to do right now.
Yeah,
that's what I love about what I'm doing, is I get to cultivate a relationship and then be able to help point people in a direction to share their story.
Yeah,
and so other people can hear and then do the same. And so that's one of my favorite pillars of what you guys have.
I'm with you. Yeah. You had asked me what the more meaningful part of my job was, and I guess the best answer is that part: cultivating meaningful relationships with our members.
As someone who is going through these 12-month programs, it has to be so impactful for you to see the transformation on the other side of it. Tell me a story of a guy who's going through a major transformation in the 12-month programs that you guys are running right now.
Yeah. So, people enter our ecosystem and join our programs at all different cadences, right? Some people, they'll join us for an in-person, followed by a virtual accelerator online. Some people just for the virtual components. So the journey looks different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, they've been with us for 3 years. For some people, they just joined us yesterday, right? But I have gotten to come across some pretty remarkable stories, and some of which we're actually starting to cover and do some PR around.
Yeah.
We just recently highlighted 2 members on CBS and Miami's local news outlet, Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also highlighted Andy Jones, who used to play in the NFL. Andy Jones, for me, is one of these amazing stories where he was an OG in those first Next Chapter U programs that we ran.
Yeah.
Came in, wasn't exactly sure what was next for him after hanging it up from the NFL. And we fast forward 3 years later, he went through Next Chapter U programming. He's come to some of our deep dives in the world of investments in like New York City, for example. He stayed engaged in our networking opportunities and some of our ongoing career accelerators. Now he has an insane portfolio for real estate where he's working in multi-unit commercial single-family homes and running his own business.
That's awesome.
To see someone come in and go, I'm not sure what's next for me and I'm struggling, to doing the real work internally and externally, like right in the industry and learning the ins and outs and getting his hands dirty, to now having his own business.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Gotta get your hands dirty.
But I've also seen, and we, I don't want to disclose people's personal information, so I won't, but I've seen people heal their marriages. Mm. I've seen people go from considering whether they should be on this planet to knowing that they belong to be here. I mean, we've seen all different varieties of people and where they're at and how they've grown. And other people, they just came and like had a great time with us, and they love being around people who share, this like-minded approach to life, where we want to grow and get better and be surrounded by good people. So, but Andy Jones for me, that one always stands out to me. Yeah.
You're in a position to lead, and I always, as a leader, I always like to take a step back and see what does that mirror point at me? What I can learn.
Yes.
So
that's a sign of a good leader.
Yeah. In that, what have been some of the things that some of the lessons that you've seen and been a part of that's also helped you take a step back and look at, hey, where am I? What do I need to be working on?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of those in my professional life. When I graduated college, I started working for this, at the time, an obscure clothing brand called Lululemon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So everyone knows Lululemon now. You're wearing Lululemon right now. A lot of our pack gears. Yeah, that's some Lululemon. You're rocking it right now.
The pants are too.
There you go. Yeah, my pants are Lululemon too. So
you know what? I'm gonna pause you there. Please go. Don't forget your thought.
Yeah.
But my whole goal when I retired from football was to lose enough weight so I can wear a pair of Lululemon pants.
Man, that's so funny. Yeah. I've heard that story from other people.
As a lineman, 315, 320. My wife, she's from Vancouver, Canada. And so
it's the first place of Lululemon.
Right. Yeah. She comes to Ole Miss and I'm like, what is these? It wasn't nowhere in the South or even in the States.
Vancouver
really.
To Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I want to hear that story later.
Different time. Yeah. But my whole goal of, when I would go to Vancouver to see these, everyone's wearing Lululemon, I'm thinking like, man, I want to wear it. That looks good on people. I want to wear that. So anyway, when you said Lululemon, I'm like, oh yeah, I do. I wear Lululemon.
Yeah,
now.
You do. Yeah,
I do wear it now.
Which I say obscure because 12 years ago, it was obscure. Not everyone even knew it, how to say it, and then men didn't touch it.
Right, absolutely.
There was men's product, but they didn't like to touch it. They didn't felt like this is a female brand. I don't. So, I mean, I'll share this quickly, but I think it matters. And what you asked is, I started working at Lululemon while I was in college.
Okay.
I wanted to go work somewhere where I could make some money as a college student, be in a good environment. I knew some people that worked there. I was like, sounds like a good spot. And I actually fell in love with it. And to start, I mean, I was literally in there folding pants, like selling stuff. I was like on the ground floor, and graduated and decided I'm going to stay and keep doing this. And that's, I worked my way into other projects, which actually is what led me to Pack. And a lot of that was changing the mind of men like you to like Lululemon. So through community efforts like that, there's just a lot of synergies there. So the reason I bring this up is because when I kind of worked through my entry level phase with Lululemon and I started working in more complex projects, had more responsibility, I started working with some individuals, and the culture of Lululemon really valued feedback, like giving it, receiving it, all of it. Like it was a big part of who we were. So I started to receive feedback a lot.
Yeah.
And it actually, I was like, feels like playing football again.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
tell you what
It's an
coaches are great
athlete.
at, giving you feedback,
It's an
right? You
athlete.
know, was that good or not?
Right.
They'll tell you
Right.
immediately.
Right.
So Lululemon had some of that culture when I started there, and I loved it. And so that taught me to start doing that to myself.
Yeah.
Self-coaching, self-assessing, reflecting, setting goals, but then also having check-ins with myself. How's this really going? Am I bullshitting this goal? Like, oh, I want to run a marathon. Like, do you really? Because you haven't run shit since you set that goal, right? And then, that starts to, so why did I set that goal, right? I set that goal because it looked good to somebody else, probably, right?
There it is, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was a good reflecting point for me around receiving and giving feedback, right? And that started to really show up in my leadership.
That's awesome.
Which I think was really important. And then the second pivotal thing I would say would be the birth of my first son. Because, man, it's there. I could talk about it for an hour, as you know. Time management, identity, leading your kids, being a father, being a friend, being a caregiver. Like, there's so many dynamics. But the thing that really checked me was, like, I just gave Lululemon all the praise in the world, but I got to a point where I didn't want to be there anymore. And for no specific reason, I just knew there was a recipe of things that it was time for me to go experience something different. I was being called into something. I needed to go find that thing. And so I had my wife had my son. We had our son, right? And he'd been on the planet for a year. And that year I struggled because I knew my son knew the truth. I didn't have to say it. He didn't have to see it. I just knew he knew the truth. Always. He still does. Freaks me out. And so I didn't want my son to know that his dad was keeping a job because it was safe, even though he was miserable. And so I made a decision to change it, right? But I would say that birth of my son, it became this ultimate mirror. Where I was like, it's tough to bullshit anyone because my son knows. If my son knows, I know, right? And that's all that really matters. So I really had to check myself when I became a father and say, what would I tell my son in this scenario? Would I say, just keep doing it. It's good benefits and and you've been there for a while and it's safe? Or would I say, listen, you're not happy and you need to go pursue something that's going to make you happy.
Find it.
Even if you fail, you took the shot, you get to tell the story. Versus waking up one day, it's the end of your life and you go, man, I can't believe I just did all that because I didn't want to take a risk. So I would say becoming a father was easily the most impactful moment in my leadership journey and going, how do I look at myself, be honest with myself, and try to deliver on that as frequently as possible? And I come up short still, a lot, of course. But I'm always in that work. Right. And trying to be real with me. If I'm real with me, then I think I can show up and lead other people.
Which is being real is we always in that work. So
always.
My favorite thing is, figuring out what other people are doing, because this is for me. When you're pouring so much into others, you're leading. I always think about the airplane mask.
Put your
mask on first. How do you continue to, when you're pouring out so much, how do you continue to fill your cup so that you can stay grounded as a leader you need to be for others?
So I have established some stuff in my life that I know makes me a better person. And I try to be selfish in making those things happen. Selfish is a jarring word. So I say it on purpose because I often show up short of selfish, right? But I'm aiming to be committed to follow through. And so growing up as an athlete, like I'd mentioned in Florida, right? The first thing we did every day is we get in the weight room and destroy ourselves for over an hour. And there was something that I learned in that. And I think my body, my spirit, whatever, learned that when you wake up and you choose to do something hard early in your day, then when hard things show up on your doorstep, you're more resilient, you're more prepared and capable of managing those in an effective way, right? So one thing that's really important for me is to take care of my body, to strengthen my mind, and to do hard things on purpose. And I try to do that in the morning before I've got to go be dad, husband, or leader. Right? And that doesn't happen every morning. Like, for example, this morning, I got an 8-week-old who decided to wake up from 4 to 6. And then I decided to work out from 6 to 7 before I started my day. I followed through today. I kept my promise. And I think I'm showing up as a better person today because of it. So that's one simple way. Right? But then also making time in for me, quiet time, whether that's time spent in faith, reflection, reading, whatever that is. But a little bit of nothing for me goes a long way. Because you know how it is. You open that phone, that laptop, you get in that car, you open that door, and life starts to happen.
I work out at 5:30.
There you go.
every morning, and I cannot touch my phone because the moment I touch my phone, I will not get my workout done.
Yeah, the mind
My
changes.
mind just goes right into that world.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I try to do it at 5:30 because I'm like, there's nothing really pressing at 5:30. So.
Yeah, whoever's up at 5:30
Right.
is probably focusing on other things.
Right.
Yeah. Get you to 7:00, and then the early birds will start coming at you. But yeah, man.
But you just said something that resonated with me. It's something that I shared the other day around, just what you said was, doing hard things and doing things often. So when hard things show up at your door, you're prepared.
Right.
I shared something the other day that mental toughness is trained. You can train that. You're not born with it. And I truly believe that my mental toughness was shaped not just in football, but in the early days of growing up in Mississippi and doing the hard work and in the hot sun of Mississippi.
Yeah, the South is real.
Doing jobs where they really don't care how tired you are. And so, but when you bring that into this day and age, there's not a whole lot of that. And so how do you, as a young person, as a young athlete, show up and continue to do hard things day in and day out? And that was a good example of that. As looking at your kids getting up early, but you still getting up early in the morning, doing that workout, doing something hard so that you can fill your cup so that you're prepared when hard things show up. And I think I'm, going to share something about that around how do I continue to train, not wait to look tough, but train to be tough.
Right.
Because it's a muscle you train, just like your muscles that when you go in the gym and work out. And so appreciate you sharing that because that's something that really sticks out and resonate with me and the message that needs to be shared of, hey, these things are trained.
Yeah.
Everything that we do is about reps.
Yes.
If we get the more reps we get, the more reps we get at it, the better we get.
You can get better at anything.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you you're going to be LeBron James.
Right.
I'm not telling you, that you're going to walk onto the field and be the best at anything or you're going to be the best at this, but you can get better at anything with reps.
Yeah.
Yeah. We naturally as human beings, we're built to evolve, learn, and grow. And we do that by being and doing.
Yeah. I just saw this public speaker. She's an amazing public speaker, and she was trying to figure out, she wanted to do a handstand and do a walking handstand. And it took her about a year, and she wanted to do pull-ups. It took her about a year, but she got better and better and better. She did it day in and day out, and she was able to do all those things. And so it was just a reminder is that we have to get the reps.
Yeah. And what I would even say to the young people out there listening, right, is don't stop. That's, I think, the secret sauce.
Yeah.
You watch people who just don't stop learning, growing, training, whatever it is. I think that, man, is really the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Is just don't stop, because as you get older and once you stop and try to start again, the learning curve grows steeper, the time back to gets harder, and it becomes more challenging, right? So I think regardless, whether it's hard, it's not hard, you stopped, you didn't stop, just don't stop.
Yeah. I can back you up on that. I stopped training for about a year and a half, just focusing on my diet, just trying to get slim to get in Lululemon.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And what I realized is that the moment I stopped training was the cliff that I was waiting to fall off of. And I almost fell off that cliff because my knees started hurting, my ankles, my back, everything started to hurt really, really bad getting out of bed. And then all of a sudden I started training again. I was like, I got to get my strength back.
Yeah.
So I started training again, and all those things went away. And so it was, again, back to that reminder for me was, hey, you can't stop training.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well, two things, man. If you stop training, you are training. You're training to fail. You're training to be hurt. You're training to be injured. You're training to be depressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if that's what you need, don't stop, right? Because stopping is a training. It's just a different kind of training. Yeah. And the thing though that I always like to talk about is this physical practice, right? This training, this working out, right? I ask myself, and I would encourage everyone to do the same thing, is how does this become transferable into everything else now, right?
Yes.
I decided to wake up. I decided to put the work in. I decided to get to do whatever was required of me. I chose it. I could not have done it, right? And I decided to look at it in a way where I know, regardless of how this feels, I know it's good for me and worth it. Yeah. I'm asking myself, how can I do that in fatherhood? How can I do that in being a husband? How can I do that in being a leader at PAC and beyond? Yeah. But it's like, how can I choose that as well when maybe something rolls across my desk and I'm like, oh boy. And you're like, choose that this is going to be a challenge that is worth it and have a healthy perspective on it and watch my body not respond with such stress.
Yeah. Well, that leads right into the next question. In doing those and for yourself and trying to figure out how, when you think about, athletes as a whole making a transition, whether they're that transition from high school into to the real world, whether that's a high school athlete to playing college ball to the real world, college ball to pro ball, so far and so on.
Right.
What would you say to those athletes who are making those transitions, no matter where they're going, of how to take their skills, the things that the foundation that they've learned in sports, and make those things transferable into whatever world you're going into?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I think one is first identifying, like naming and owning the things that make you great right now as an athlete, or made you great, right?
Yeah.
You still have them, whether they've been dormant or whatever it is, they're still in you. You've proven you can. So you can prove it again. So get clear on those things, which can show up as your values, right? That's what it could be. Like, I value grit, rigor, determination, all those things that define athletes, right? So I think define those things, name them, own them. They're yours. No one can take them from you. And I don't care if that means you go start another career and you're the worst at that job and you are like at the bottom of the totem pole. It doesn't matter. Keep being that person. Keep taking ownership over those things. And if you're being real with yourself, you're going to get better.
Right.
You're going to get better. So name them, own them, live into them, whatever those traits, those qualities are that made you great as an athlete. Bring them into the real world. Watch the real world take notice. The real world is craving those things.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're a business owner.
Yeah.
How amazing would it be if you could hire a bunch of people who've proven they can be great at what they say they're going to be?
That's what I'm looking for.
They can overcome odds. They'll put their body, mind, and spirit through the ringer if it's what's required of them. They will show up, be on time, and do their best.
Yeah.
And you can count on them continually learning, growing, evolving, and getting better. I don't care what your experience is. Come work for me.
Right.
A little bit of time with you, and you're going to be great.
Right.
Almost every athlete has that in them.
Right.
Yeah. So I would encourage them, own that, live into that. And then you're going to be required to start over to some extent. Right. You went from the starter,
0 to 0,
whatever you were, you're not anymore. It's okay.
Yeah.
You will be again soon. It's the mountain analogy, right?
Yeah.
You climbed it once, you can climb it again. You just got to change up the formula a little bit, keep moving, keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah.
You'll be at the top of the mountain again. Yeah. And then there'll be another mountain.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, I got one more question for you.
All right.
As we wrap up here, when you think about your life, your journey, where you are today, what are those intangibles that makes you who you are today?
I think the first one would be my perseverance, and probably even against my own internal dialogue, right? This idea that I wasn't good enough, etc. But I know that if I put my mind to something, even if it's going to require me to have this massive delay return, right? Like I may not even know when it will work. I will persevere, continue to show up, regardless of the odds. I'm going to be in the room, and then I'll figure it out from there. So I think my perseverance, perspective, right? How I've decided to look at things like being born into, an absent father. Man, the perspective that I have is, could you imagine if he was around?
Yeah.
Who I might be, right? And his vacancy has allowed me to look at all these great leaders, some of which I've mentioned throughout the course of this conversation, and go, man, I really love this about you. And I really love this about you. I really love that about you. And I'm going to pull those things in to who I am deciding to be in the world. So it's allowed me to kind of craft and cultivate this figure that I want to aspire to be more like, instead of that person just kind of being pre-programmed in my life.
Right.
That took me a while to get there, but I think that perspective for me has enabled me to show up and say, I'm going to change the trajectory of my family. I'm going to be an amazing father. I'm going to lead people well. I don't know if my father would have taught me that. So my perseverance, my perspective, those things to me. And then I got grit, man.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, I was trying to sell vacuums. I had a paper route. I mean, I've had jobs throughout high school. I've been in a career since I stopped playing football, 20 years old, basically. I'm going to get after it. I'd rather be on the field and be like the last place than be in the stands, watching and wishing. And there's places that I haven't arrived in their arena yet, but I'm working on getting in the room so that I can be in the arena. So my perspective, man, my perseverance, my grit, those three things for me are my secret sauce.
Jake, man, this has been a powerful conversation. I appreciate your compassion. I see it coming through. I appreciate the empathy you have for others. Truly appreciate the way you show up for people. Um, Most important, how you show up for yourself
Mm.
to show up for others. I really appreciate that. I hear the grit. So I really appreciate you joining me on Intangible Podcast and sharing your story.
Yeah. Thank you,
It's
Chris.
been
Yeah, it's
fun.
been wonderful, man.
Yeah,
Thank you for leading me through this conversation so well.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, man.